Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman, here once again with Tecumseh. This is part two of a part three series. So if you're new here, I'm definitely recommend doing the episode before. But if not, it's still cool. First one be kind of the introduction of Tecumseh and his background and all that good stuff. And now I guess we're into the meat of it, guys. We got a battle. Tecumseh believe he ran away from a battle even when he was really young and didn't want that to happen. Dude wasn't going to do that again. And so this is going to be really interesting because I don't really know much. You know, I think everyone kind of knows about the natives and how they just kind of got pushed off their land and stuff, but I really don't know a lot of the personal stuff from it. So this will be kind of interesting to learn. And I really don't know much about any battle really of the natives against, I guess, the Americans. So this will be really interesting to see. And for those of you who are along for the ride, and I hope you guys enjoy this series. I know it's not my usual, I guess, wars that I do, but it's always kind of fun to switch up and jump around the world kind of thing, right, guys? So, anyways, guys, we're gonna jump into this. Hope you guys are having an awesome day, and yeah, just check out the natives. I'm assuming, I'm pulling for him here. I'm pulling for him, man. They've, obviously in history they've had a rough time. So, you know, I hope they win this. I hope they win this battle. But anyways, guys, at Battle of Tippecanoe, Tippecanoe, Canoe. I don't know. We'll find out, right? But anyways, guys, yeah, like and subscribe, please, and let's get into this. Woo! 3, 2, 1, bam. Oh yeah, this is Kings and Generals once again. Just to let you guys know,
The
and you
truth
definitely
is
check
that
out this stuff.
Hollywood's elite actors can get ripped while adding 12, 15, even 20 pounds of muscle in just a
Anyways,
In 1794, a young Shawnee warrior fought alongside an alliance of natives against a force of American soldiers 2,000 strong. The natives were defeated in this battle, and many great chiefs of the Old Northwest were forced to sign away vast swathes of their territory to the United States. The young Shawnee warrior refused to sign this treaty, dreaming instead of a world where all the Indian peoples were united as one, where no one tribe could sell land that belonged to all. Welcome to part 2 of our series on the life of Tecumseh. We're excited to announce that this video is being sponsored by Magellan TV. We've been working with Magellan for a while and we cannot recommend them enough. History playlist is called When Egyptians to get a 1-month free trial. By the turn of the 19th century, it was clear that the Americans' hunger for territory had not been sated. The Louisiana Purchase, which saw a massive stretch of land sold by the French to the United States, all but confirmed that further ingress into native inhabited lands was inevitable. In the aftermath of their victory in the Northwest Indian War, over 600,000 American pioneers would settle in the newly established states of Kentucky and Ohio, as well as the territory of Indiana, land once dominated by native tribes. Disunited and outnumbered, the natives of the frontier were direly outmatched. Despite this, Tecumseh never gave up his grand ambitions to retake native territories. As fate would have it, it would actually be his brother who would spark the movement that would snowball into the creation of his great confederacy.
okay,
This man was Lalawethika, meaning he who makes a loud noise. He had
okay,
always been the black sheep of the family, having never become a great warrior like his brothers. A freak accident had taken out his eye when he was young, and he spent the majority of his youth as a perpetually drunk good-for-nothing. In the year 1805, everything changed. One day,
I'm guessing he's gonna just randomly go out and go kill someone or make a end up doing something and it ends up becoming this huge deal, right? So I'm not sure if it's gonna be like I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be something he doesn't realize the consequences of his actions, and then it kind of it starts the steamroll, whatever. But I could be totally wrong. I'm just trying to guess, but I'm sure I'm gonna find out in like 2 seconds.
Lalawethika was smoking in his wigwam when suddenly his body seized up and he fell into a trance. His stupor was so deep that those around him thought he had died, yet soon he awoke as a changed man. Lalawethika told everyone that he had received a vision from the Great Spirit, in which he had seen his people led onto a path of doom, and was now convinced that the Great Spirit had sent him on a mission to purify native culture for their salvation. He took on a new name, Tecumseh, the Open Door. In time,
Alright, I was totally wrong. My bad, I was definitely wrong. I like to try and sometimes make some predictions. I was totally wrong, and wow, amazing. You had like an epiphany, and like, wow, okay, so awesome stuff. Definitely a lot better than, what my mind was kind of thinking of, like maybe like you on a whim, you went out, was trying to just do something and ended up killing someone, and it kind of started this whole big thing, but it didn't happen, and this is even better. Cool stuff.
he took on a new name, Tecumseh, the Open Door. In time, he became known to his people as the Prophet. The Prophet soon began spreading his teachings amongst the Shawnee. He preached that his people were the Great Spirit's original creations. In contrast, the white people were children of the evil spirit that grew from the scum of the great waters. As such, natives bore an innate responsibility to keep their way of life pure of colonial influence. To this endeavor, he denounced intermarriage between natives and whites, which had become commonplace in the last few decades. He spoke out against alcoholism and forbade the evils of drink. He renounced European clothing and other such innovations brought to his lands since first contact, mandating his followers wear the traditional garments of their people. In the winter of 1805, a familiar calamity struck the Old Northwest. Native communities were once more afflicted by an outbreak of smallpox, leaving many communities crippled or entirely depopulated. Disease had sadly become old news to the natives by this point, who often coped by blaming their misfortune on witches, who supposedly were sinister herbalists capable of brewing malicious potions and spreading illness. Thus, in the spring of 1806, the Prophet became a major ringleader in a witch hunt that spread across the Old Northwest.
It's all these smallpox and stuff. Is that just, from basically kind of like the Americans, or like, the British kind of bringing over, basically bringing it over, and the natives kind of not used to what's that called? Not used to that, and they catch it, and whatnot. Forget that what that's called. Sorry, but man, with the fight that's coming up, I mean, they could definitely use a lot of these, men and manpower. I mean, I guess a lot of things could be different if it has so many more people to kind of fight with them. So it's definitely a shame.
The Prophet became a major ringleader in a witch hunt that spread across the Old Northwest, a hunt he used to further spread the influence of his religious movement. Tecumseh hounded down all those who denounced him and all who embraced the ways of the white man. Under his watch, Christian natives and chieftains friendly to the Americans were captured, tortured, and killed, all in the name of rooting allegedly evil witches out of native communities.
Damn. See, this is that kind of stuff is like, come on, dude. Like, I'm pulling for the natives, but when you do stuff like that, it's kind of hard to pull for you, man. And like, I know that, as I said, the white man that did has done like, similar things, I guess to the natives, right? Because still, come on, man. Like, two wrongs don't make a right, So come on, dude. Maybe Tecumseh, maybe because this is his brother, the Prophet. Maybe he has a different point of view on things. I'll be interested to see what that is.
The Prophet soon had a growing following, not just among the Shawnee, but many neighboring tribes as well. The growing unrest in the native Northwest began to make American settlers on the frontier uneasy. One such man was William Henry Harrison, governor of the Indiana Territory.
Oops. Sorry, guys.
He had fought in the Northwest Indian Wars a decade earlier. and a religious uprising centered around resisting colonialism was a threat to the settlers in his jurisdiction. Seeking to pacify the movement, Harrison denounced Tenskwatawa to the Delawares with conviction, saying, "Who is this pretended prophet who dares to speak in the name of the great Creator? Is he more wise or virtuous than you are yourselves, that he should convey to you the orders of your God?" To affirm his spiritual powers, the prophet told his followers of a day of black sun. He was correct. By accurately predicting a solar eclipse, Tenskwatawa had proven his power in the eyes of his followers. In 1808, the prophet joined forces with Tecumseh. Together, the two brothers founded a village upon the confluence of the Wabash.
That's pretty amazing that he predicted an eclipse. I mean, I don't think they had access to, I guess, that kind of, where, just knowing that stuff. I don't think they had, like, telescopes and stuff like that and knew that kind of thing, Like, obviously, the British Americans, they can, like, probably easily, have the technology, or they already kind of knew, that eclipse and stuff and how to predict all that. But the natives knowing that, or not really the natives, just him, kind of predicting that. That's kind of crazy. I mean, it kind of makes you think, did he overhear something, or did he actually did have a vision and knew that? Or I'm not sure. Like, how does he know that, man? Wow.
Tecumseh. Together, the two brothers founded a village upon the confluence of the Wabash and Tippecanoe rivers. The old chieftain, Little Turtle, who had fought at Fallen Timbers, warned Tecumseh that he was settling on the lands of the Miami, to which Tecumseh replied devoutly that he was settling on native lands. The brothers' village came to be known as Prophetstown, and would serve as the staging point for their pan-native resistance movement. In the following years, people from all over the Old Northwest filtered into Prophetstown, drawn to Tenskwatawa's teachings and Tecumseh's reputation as a warrior. The community grew quickly from a small village into a bustling multi-tribal township, a hub of Native American cultural and political activity. In the end, it was Tecumseh who assumed the ultimate chieftaincy of their budding community. Tecumseh soon set out from Prophetstown on a mission to convince the tribes of the Old Northwest that resistance, not assimilation, was the key to their survival, and to build a confederacy that stretched across the American frontier. The chieftain traveled from village to village, dazzling people with his charismatic orations and legendary strength. Chieftains of the Ojibwe, Wyandots, Fox, Sauk, Odawas, Kickapoos, Lenape, Miami, Seneca, Onondaga, and Delawares all joined his cause, as of course did the Shawnee. But Tecumseh was not all honeyed words. He imposed himself harshly, threatening death to any chiefs who collaborated with the Americans. Meanwhile, as more tribes joined Tecumseh's cause, more and more natives migrated into Prophetstown, which had evolved.
Well, I guess that kind of shows that he kind of has, the same look as his brother does. It's like, hey, you talk to them, you're dead. So, I mean, I guess that's a way of going about it. But he wants to make sure everyone's on his side and everything. And I guess I can understand that. And but wow, you're kind of like drawing the line either with us or against us. I guess there's no in between with them, So wow.
Evolved into the center of the Native Confederacy, a swelling city-state that provided a powerful buffer against white settlers' westward expansion. The rapid growth of Tecumseh's Confederacy, its active anti-colonial rhetoric, and its existence within lands claimed by the United States put it on an inevitable collision course with the Americans. The catalyst of this confrontation came in 1809, when Governor Harrison of Indiana coerced select chieftains of the Delaware, Potawatomi, and Kickapoo to sign the Treaty of Fort Wayne, which ceded a 12,000 square kilometer piece of land along the Wabash River to the United States government. This treaty infuriated Tecumseh, as it flew right in the face of his core belief that land belonged collectively to all natives. He saw it as theft, a plain and simple attempt to extort weak chieftains whose land had been made poor by white settlers. In August of 1810, Tecumseh met with Harrison.
So basically, they're not all combined as like a same force. These other guys kind of sold it off, land that wasn't theirs, or I guess partially theirs, and then the white man said, "Okay, these guys signed off on it. It's ours now. You know, not getting the agreement. They just want to sell, I guess, a few, chiefs to sign off on it because then it makes it kind of legit, I guess. But the rest were like, hold on a second, we're not signing off on this. This is our land, and wow. So this is really they both think it's their land because yeah. Collision course coming up.
White settlers. In August of 1810, Tecumseh met with Harrison face to face outside the governor's colonial estate, and the two engaged in a heated parley. Tecumseh insisted that native land could not be bought or sold, unless done so collectively by all the tribes acting as one, and that the land ceded to the Americans in the recent treaties still rightfully belonged to the natives. Harrison replied that individual tribes were free to make treaties with the United States, but Tecumseh's confederacy was not recognized, nor did the local tribes welcome his interference in their affairs. The back-and-forth debate inspired a passionate reply from Tecumseh and his most iconic quote, "Sell a country? Why not sell the air, the great sea as well as the earth? Did not the Great Spirit make them all for the use of his children?" Tensions soon grew between the two parties. Harrison was quick to point out that the Shawnee themselves had taken land from the Miamis, so what right had they to dictate the affairs of other tribes? If the tribes were all one nation, as Tecumseh claimed, why did the Great Spirit not have them all speak one language? Tecumseh lost his temper, declaring that everything Harrison said was a lie, and that the Americans had cheated the native peoples. He brandished his tomahawk at the governor, prompting Harrison to draw his saber and point it at Tecumseh. A tense standoff ensued, but neither side attacked. Harrison brought the meeting to an end, and demanded Tecumseh and his followers leave. Tecumseh soon realized he had been wrong to threaten Harrison, and the two met once more the following day, this time at the Shawnees' camp. This time Tecumseh opted for a more diplomatic route. He offered the United States alliance against Britain, but only if they would renounce their claim to native lands purchased in recent treaties. Harrison replied cordially, saying he would present Tecumseh's terms to the president, but did not expect the natives' conditions to be met. To this, Tecumseh replied regretfully, "I hope the great chief will give up this land. He is so far off, he may sit still and drink his wine, whilst you and I will have to fight it out." Harrison was impressed by the integrity of his enemy. He remarked that, if it were not for the vicinity of the United States, he would perhaps be the founder of an
Wow.
You can't always plan when you'll need a gun. Rational gun owners carry not because it's a weapon, but because it's a shield.
an empire. In 1811, Tecumseh traveled southwards to present-day Alabama. The natives of that region were known to the Americans as the Five Civilized Tribes due to their more positive predisposition to adopting European practices. Tecumseh's goal was to extend his alliance along the entirety of the American frontier, but he met fierce resistance in the south. The tribes there rejected his calls for unity more often than not, instead preferring to abide by the treaties they had signed with the United States. This is exemplified in an exchange between Tecumseh and Pushmataha, a chieftain of the Choctaws. Pushmataha stood firm against Tecumseh, delivering a pithy statement. "These white Americans give us fair exchange, their cloth, their guns, their tools, implements, and other things which the Choctaws need but do not make. It will be seen that the whites and Indians in this section are living on friendly and mutually beneficial terms." Tecumseh delivered a vehement reply. "Where today are the Pequot? Where are the Narragansett, the Mochican, the Poccanet, and other powerful tribes of our people? They have vanished before the avarice and oppression of the white man. Sleep not longer, O Choctaws and Chickasaws. Will not the bones of our dead be ploughed up, and their graves turned into ploughed fields?"
I mean, he's got a point. I mean, like the trees they have now are great, but obviously we know that everything ends up going to shit, really, and you basically you got your stuff, they get your clothing and everything, and then you get to keep your land or whatnot. Then like down the line, then they kind of want to keep wanting to take. So, I mean, I guess these guys, natives in the South would probably, change their mind and might actually join him if they kind of knew what was coming down in the future, right?
Unfortunately, his words fell on deaf ears, and the Choctaws refused to join his cause. Nevertheless, Tecumseh did find limited success in the south. In September, he rode into the Muskogee town of Tuckabatchee. There he delivered another impassioned speech about the unity of natives and resistance against the white man. Thousands of warriors raised their tomahawks and cheered, but one old chieftain remained silent. One story claims that Tecumseh stalked over to this chieftain and declared that he would march to Fort Detroit, stamp his foot into the earth, and shake down every house in Tuckabatchee to prove that he had been chosen by the Great Spirit. Tecumseh then ventured back northwards, and sure enough, on December 16, 1811, the New Madrid earthquake rocked the southern United States, and every house in Tuckabatchee was shaken to its foundations. Many interpreted this as the coming of Tecumseh's prophecy and proof they should join his confederacy. Henceforth, a significant amount of Muskogees declared themselves for Tecumseh, a faction which became known as the Red Sticks. Meanwhile, in Indiana, Governor Harrison was aware that Tecumseh was away from Prophetstown, which was currently under the administration of Tenskwatawa. Harrison knew that Tecumseh was the main military power in the Native Confederacy, and his absence made this the right time to strike. Harrison's goal was to conquer Prophetstown, thereby ripping the heart out of the growing Confederacy and eliminating the threat of a native invasion of Indiana before it could begin. Harrison sent the Prophet an ultimatum. All Potawatomis, Kickapoos, and Winnebagos were to be expelled from Prophetstown. All warriors who had launched raids upon United States citizens had to be surrendered, and all goods and horses stolen from settlers had to be returned. These terms served to effectively disband the Native Confederacy, and unsurprisingly, were unilaterally rejected.
Yeah.
On September 20th, 1811, Harrison marched northwards with an army of 1,000 men. Comprising this force were 325 Army regulars and 625 volunteers, largely from Kentucky and the Indiana Territory. The militia was made up primarily of infantrymen, but also featured mounted sharpshooters and dragoons. The principal weapon used by this expeditionary force was the Model 1795 Springfield flintlock musket, a firearm capable of discharging 3 rounds per minute. The army stopped at present-day Terre Haute, Indiana, and constructed a stockade named Fort Harrison, which would be a staging point for their upcoming assault. Within their town, the Prophet's warriors numbered anywhere from 500 to 700, divided into tribal contingents of Winnebagos, Kickapoos, Potawatomis, Wyandots, and Shawnees, each numbering about 125 men. Most of the natives were armed with British Brown Bess muskets and carried knives, tomahawks, and war clubs. By November 6th, the Americans had advanced out of Fort Harrison and made camp on a high ridge around 1,000 yards west of Prophetstown. Before he had headed south, Tecumseh had warned his brother not to engage in combat, for he did not want open war before his confederacy was fully mobilized. Despite this, he was not present, and the warriors of Prophetstown looked to Tenskwatawa for guidance. The Prophet had made overtures for peace that afternoon, but this was a fruitless endeavor, as Harrison could not accept any terms short of the abandonment of Prophetstown and the dispersal of its inhabitants. Meanwhile, the natives had become deeply uneased by the army at their doorstep, and many itched for confrontation. The most popular story claims the Winnebago faction denounced any attempt at peace and demanded Tenskwatawa send them into battle. Thus, the Prophet sought a vision with the Great Spirit and returned to his warriors with a plan: to assassinate Governor Harrison, thereby beheading the American army and making them unable to fight. The Winnebagos demanded that the attack had to be that night. Thus, Tenskwatawa invoked his shamanic powers to confer with the Great Spirit, promising that the elimination of Harrison could be carried out via a nighttime assault upon the...
What if I told you could go back 50?
Wow,
Yes,
a lot of
50 generations
here.
of your family that you won't find in any...
the American camp. Thus, at 4 a.m. on the morning of November 7th, the war chiefs began their attack, having been given the blessing of their prophet.
Oh, okay. There's going to be an attack. I thought there'd be like a sneak into the camp. Maybe, I guess they would kind of stand out, and I don't know, cause kind of like not like sneak in, but kind of like see what's going on and see where like the captain is, and then I guess in the middle of the night, kind of send a small group into his tent maybe to assassinate him. I don't know.
They advanced upon the American camp in a crescent formation. The right horn was made up of Kickapoos, led by Chief Mengoatoa, the left made up of Winnebagos, led by Chief Waweapakusa, and the centre made up of Potawatomis, led by Roundhead and Wabaunsi. The plan was to have the Kickapoos infiltrate the camp's northeastern corner and slay Harrison under the cover of darkness, at which point they would signal the rest of the warriors and massacre the US soldiers. This would not come to pass, for Harrison was a shrewd commander and knew well not to underestimate his native foes. Remembering all too well how 1,000 US soldiers had been massacred at the ambush at the Wabash back in 1791, he had ordered the tents in his camp to be set up in a crescent formation and for his men to sleep on top of their muskets, which were to be loaded with their bayonets affixed. The Kickapoos reached the American camp ahead of the other native contingents, crawling on the flats of their stomachs. At around 4:30 a.m., they encountered an advanced watchman, who managed to fire off a shot before being killed. The crack of the rifle caused the Americans to grow alert, with Harrison himself being awoken by 5:30, by which point the Kickapoos had reached the northwestern edge of the camp. At precisely 5:50, one Corporal Stephen Mars managed to train his sights on a Kickapoo warrior and shoot him dead. The presence of the natives was now known, and they had precious little time before the entire American stockade was alerted. Realizing that an assassination of Harrison was now impossible, the Kickapoos raised their weapons and charged, beginning the battle in earnest. For roughly 15 minutes, the Kickapoos kept the Americans' northwest flank in a state of chaos, killing a handful of soldiers and forcing the 4th Infantry Regiment and Kentucky Riflemen to retreat deeper into their camp. However, Harrison's foresight had paid off, as by 6 a.m., all hands in the American camp were alerted and had been assembled into battle positions around the perimeter.
Wow, they slept on their rifles loaded. And yeah, they just didn't get the jump on them at all. I mean, they were alerted. I mean, the shot that took off, that was taken way early before basically the rest of the army down here could kind of get into place and push in there. I mean, I think if it all happened at the same time, I think the natives have a lot better chance. But now it's definitely looking grim on them because Harrison's camp is, they're up, they're ready, and they're ready to defend, and they didn't really get caught off guard.
It was around this time that the rest of the native warriors arrived on the scene, with the Potawatomis launching an assault on the northwest. The battle had devolved into a slugfest, a contest decided by numbers and firepower. In this, the natives were outmatched. As the hour progressed, the tides began to turn. A company under one Captain Snelling had driven the Potawatomis from the woods, who regrouped and assaulted the northern centre, causing a company led by Captain Robb to collapse and fall back, only to have Snelling's contingent fall in and beat back the ensuing Potawatomi advance. Meanwhile, the Winnebagos struck from the south, engaging in a fierce shootout with the companies of Captain Spencer and Warwick. This too was futile, as Robb's reformed unit arrived to reinforce their compatriots and drive off their enemy. By 7 a.m., the sun was beginning to rise, and the natives realized they were outnumbered 2-1. Heavily demoralized, they began retreating back to Prophetstown. Here, the Americans launched a counterattack. Fully mobilized and invigorated after repelling an attack, they encircled and charged the fleeing natives, slaying a...
Well, see, like the Harrison's camp is, they're just, you have both sides have the same guns and everything. Harrison Camp has them outnumbered, and they're just better trained in this kind of combat. It's not hand-to-hand combat, but just with guns, whatever it is. They're just better, well trained, and the way they set up everything with the lines. And I don't know, divisions or whatever. I don't know what that's called, but like just the way they fight. It's just it's just a lot better, a lot more military like. So well, once they were up and ready and they had them outnumbered, like it just wasn't gonna happen. So let's just see how this kind of the fallout here.
A handful more before the warriors made it back behind the fortifications of Prophetstown. Upon their return, many warriors were outraged at the Prophet, for he had promised them that the Great Spirit had ensured him of victory. The powerful shaman was called out for being a fraud. Many renounced their loyalty to him and deserted Prophetstown.
Wow.
Tecumseh made desperate pleas to have them stand and fight, but they fell upon deaf ears. The next morning, the American troops marched into Prophetstown to find it had been abandoned and burned it to the ground. The Prophet, who had laid the groundwork of Tecumseh's confederacy, had lost almost all his influence. The town that served as the heart of native unity had been burned down. This was a harsh blow to the native resistance, but it was not the end. Tecumseh himself still had power, for chieftains of many tribes were still loyal to him. In the face of this setback, he was forced to turn to an old ally against the American threat, the British Empire. In the next episode, we will talk about Tecumseh's alliance with the British, his partnership with Major General Sir Isaac Brock, and the critical defense of Canada in the War of 1812. So make sure you are subscribed to our channel and have pressed the bell button.
Oh man, I'm looking forward to the next episode. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny how like he wanted to listen to his brother at first, and kind of not, but then there's people like, let's go get him, and then he's like, oh, basically he was kind of like forced into kind of like a situation. Okay, we'll go, forced into a situation of a plan to go and cut the head off the monster, and get and attack. And then, of course, they lose, and the people are like, "Why? You promised us victory!" And like when he didn't want to go and fight in the first place, he wanted to listen to his brother. But I guess the people are just seem like a little wishy-washy like that. They want to fight, but when they lose, they blame someone else but themselves. But some say, kind of like things aren't working out with the Americans, so it's like, what do you got to do? You're like, well. This team up with the British. I mean, they're not the ones taking our homes right now, so they can help us, and they basically help each other. I mean, the British aren't just going to help them. I mean, the British are going to be the War of 1812 is coming up, and anyone's going to want allies. So the British can have them as allies, then more power to them, and it just makes for a better resistance of the Americans trying to take Canada. So anyway, definitely interesting episode. A lot of storytelling in this series. I'm glad it's kind of cool to get a battle. But as soon as that first shot was taken, it was kind of doomed. The battle was totally doomed. They probably should have I guess they didn't know how ready they were with laying on their rifles and such. But I guess once they started and seeing how much firepower they kind of sure took off. And I'm sure at night it'd be kind of hard to communicate all that stuff of a retreat and everything at nighttime. We can't really see nothing. Excuse me. It must have been like a full moon or something, because that'd be hard in general just to go out in the middle, unless there's a bunch of fires going on that help see. I mean, that'd be hard to fight in the middle of the night. But anyways, guys, please hit that like and subscribe button below. I hope you guys like this episode. Hope you're liking this series so far. We only got one more left to go, but this is really, I like it. I know. I hope whoever's watching this with me likes it, because I think it's pretty cool. But anyways, guys, hit the like and subscribe. I am Ata here. We're following the natives all the way to tomorrow. First video on the natives. Cool stuff. Anyways, guys, peace. Catch you guys in future videos. I am out. See you guys later.